Hello and welcome back. It's now July 14th and it is a cool rainy morning out here. We did have some pretty wild thunderstorms through the area last night, but really here by Nobleford it only dropped 1 to 2 tenths, so very little, but there is about 3/4 of an inch in the forecast starting at noon today, so I'm going to try to cover as many fields as I can before then. A lot of the dryland barley fields you can see are rapidly starting to mature in these conditions, so this is a pretty short stressed field, but the heads are coming into soft dough stage, so things are starting to dry down a little bit, and you can just see by the overall brown appearance of the field, those awns are really starting to mature. Some of the dryland canola fields are really starting to drop out of flower here this week. This field in particular had some very, very dry, stressful conditions at the start of flowering, and that has no doubt kind of crippled development and has reduced the amount of time that this crop is going to be in flower. So that, of course, reduces how many pods we are going to set. So you can still see we are quite stressed in that lower canopy. Lots of those lower leaves are dying, dropping off. You can see we have a little bit of thrips here and there, and this thrips insect is what causes these curled pods. But you can see all the leaf drop and stuff down there. So, I mean, we do have pods in here, but you can also see there is lots of blanks due to stress in here. So it is what it is. Won't be sweeping too much for bugs today because it did rain overnight and was quite windy. There's not much point trying to get a bug count. And yeah, I'm not too terribly worried though. Bug counts in the last 2 weeks have been very low across the board for me. Well, this field of dryland peas is definitely still enjoying the additional little bit of moisture. We do still have some blooms and buds going on in here, so we still have potential in here. Some of the bottom pods are filling out pretty well as well, so we're going to start seeing some of these pods get leathery. There is some other fields that are much more mature than this, and I think we're going to start to see some desiccation in the next 10 days, potentially on some of the earliest fields. Checking out my dryland wheat plots today, and things are looking decent. They are not as stressed as some of my other dryland wheat fields, so I would say at this point there's still really no big height differences or staging differences for the most part between any of these plots, but they are all still looking pretty good regardless. Some of them I'm making note of do appear to have less stress symptoms down in the lower bit of the canopy compared to the control, but it's all pretty subjective. Checking out one of the plots, I found this overly mature dying head on this plant here, and sure enough, when I grabbed it, he pulled off nice and clean, and you can see in the end there, it looks like we have some soft fly damage, so that's starting to show up already. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse in the plots here. Well, the potatoes are looking really good this week. You can see we do have some flowers. We are at that time of the year in these guys, and the spuds are starting to get to be good size. This is the size I like to take home for eating. They work great in the air fryer once you quarter them up. Well, now is Tuesday, and depending on the spot, we got between 1 and 2 inches of rain. So pretty generous rain, one of the best ones of the season here so far. It's going to be a little too late to really boost yield in a field like this dryland barley, but it is really going to help fill out those heads and should increase the bushel weight substantially better than what we got last year. So overall, definitely a good benefit. And hopefully skies might clear out tomorrow and things might start drying out. Everything's pretty sodden and puddly at the moment. Corn is looking pretty good so far this week. It is now chest high on me and growing rapidly. Now today and the next couple days are supposed to be pretty cool and wet, so the corn is probably not going to grow all that great. It's only about 12 degrees here now this afternoon, so that's really going to limit the growth of corn. So probably for the next couple days we're not going to see a whole lot of growth. But once the sun comes out, it's going to grow like absolute mad. And we're probably going to see a fair bit of yellow top. That's usually what ends up happening after a few cloudy days. Well, a lot of the irrigated canola is starting to look like this field and starting to come down out of full bloom. So this is just starting to come down into reducing bloom. Still probably at least a week away from final bloom. So once we come into this stage of the crop, we're no longer really concerned about cabbage seed pod weevil once we're out of flowering, only really with ligas. And if we get hot, dry weather, that is great for the ligas populations and they can bloom pretty quickly. But right now, so far, counts have been really low. Irrigated oats are looking absolutely great this week. You can see we've got a nice wet canopy here, but we've got some pretty good head emergence now. We're not quite at 100% head emergence, but it's coming. This is probably going to grow quite a bit in height in the next week as more and more of these heads clear the boot. Here we have some yellow peas that are starting to ripen. Now, this field does have quite a bit of kochia in it, especially along the west side of the field where I am here now. We did have Authority Supreme in here, but we had poor activation of it this spring, so we had a bunch of kochia escapes. But as you can see, the yellow peas themselves are doing quite well and are almost at desiccation timing. Really, just a few more days, we will be there. So this field we're going to hit with Regulon Ion and a really high water rate. We're going to try to get really good coverage of these kochias, get all this dried down so we can get it harvested. Here in this field of winter wheat, there's a few heads. Looks like they have some smut on them, so this is not uncommon. So smut, really the only control you have is with a seed treatment, and even though this seed was treated, you walk long enough, you'll always find some smut in a field here and there. I've gotten a few pictures of this from guys lately, so there is definitely a bit of it appearing throughout the countryside. Drier land winter wheat fields are coming along pretty well, so these heads are pretty good and filled. Still in the soft dough stage here, but it won't be too much longer and we'll be in hard dough. I think another week or so, some of these fields are going to start really maturing here pretty quickly. All right, you're going to do some sweeping for me again? Mm-hmm. All right, remember 10 sweeps. He's down.
Why is this so hard?
Walking into potted canola is never easy, especially when it's as tall as you are. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. Let's take a quick look. Hey, now hold the net for me. I can't do everything one-handed while I hold a camera. All right, yep, you pretty much got nothing. Barely even any flowers in there. Well, I'm back in the field of winter wheat where I found a little bit of rust last week, and I'm not seeing any further progression of the disease. There is the odd leaf here and there with a couple of little pustules on it, but overall a very light load. Most of these heads are now into the soft dough stage. We're out of the milk stage. These heads are filled out pretty well, condition, and things are looking pretty good. You'll see we did get a bit of lodging. That storm was pretty violent on Monday night in a few spots, especially late that night around 11. It absolutely poured in this area. The rain was so heavy it sounded like hail, so we are seeing some lodging. But and once you get crop into this growth stage, then the likelihood of having to spray it for a disease like rust keeps dropping by the day. As these heads are filled out now and just starting to dry down, foliar leaf disease is going to affect us less and less every day. Well, if you guys like growing tomatoes as much as I do, you'll know that in this area we do have a problem with blossom end rot. This year I'm really struggling with it. Almost 50% of my tomatoes so far have had blossom end rot. So normally I would amend my soil here with some granular calcium prior to the season. This spring, in the rush of everything, I completely forgot, and now I am paying the price. So I am going to be using some Cal Air from Strong Terra in order to come in here and mix that in with the water, and hopefully that'll minimize my problem and I won't have any further problems, right, Bix? Well, spring wheat fields are looking pretty good this week. This one is doing absolutely great. We did spray this with a fungicide at head emergence, and leaf disease is pretty minimal throughout the field. Conditions are looking really good, but there is the occasional leaf that looks like this, and this is wheat streak mosaic. Pretty common. It does show up every year to a varying degree. It's showing up enough right now that I'm getting quite a few pictures from guys asking what it is, so it's definitely out and about, but I haven't seen any fields that are really severe for it. But because this is a viral pathogen that is transmitted by insects, the only effective control is to basically control that green bridge between crops by making sure that we don't have any mites basically carry over from crop to crop. And yeah, being viral, there is really no cure for it once it is in the crop. Oh, here's another field of hemp. This is, if you don't know anything about hemp, it is quite an interesting crop. Most of it is grown organically out in this area. There is two different types of plants in here. There is male and female plants. So this one is a male. So these ones here open up and basically all they do is drop pollen. And then these other ones that have the more leaves on the top, these are the females. So these will be getting pollinated and will start filling out with seeds probably relatively soon here, I would think. It looks like some of these males are just starting to open up, so that probably means the females are going to be as well. A lot of irrigated canola fields are starting to look like this one now. So this field is just basically the main stems are pretty much finished flowering at this point now. So what we're seeing here is just the side branches. So we're still kind of just coming down really from full bloom. And in probably a week, we're going to be at final blooms. Very little for insects I'm finding in the sweep net this week. Probably a combination of both the weather, temperature, and the moisture in the canopy. Although the canopy is dry enough now, I think, a couple days of violent rain really shook a lot of those insects out of the canopy. Definitely some wild weather this week. In some directions you see it's, nice light fluffy clouds and blue sky, and then you turn around and it's just black and pouring rain. I think I've been rained on every day this week. This is probably the wettest July week I remember for years. Well, that'll be it for this week. Join me again next week and we'll go over a little bit more desiccation timing. I think for the fields that are starting to come into desiccation timing, it'll probably be mid next week before application time is good, judging by the forecast for next week at the moment. But we'll take that leap when we get there, because of course we all know weather forecasts usually aren't very accurate more than about 3 days in advance. So until then, keep your powder dry.